Before we begin, I want you to hold on to one simple truth. History doesn't change because the world is ready. It changes because one human refuses to stay small. And today, in part 2, we step into the life of a child who should have disappeared long before anyone learned his name. If you missed part 1, check the description. Trust me, understanding where this story began makes what comes now hit much harder. Now ask yourself something. Have you ever imagined who your ancestors really were? What fear tasted like in their mouths? What hope felt like in their chest? What choices they had to make just to stay alive? Their world wasn't slow. It wasn't peaceful. It was loud, violent, fragile, and it demanded everything. And in that world, around 2350 BCE, a baby floated alone in a river. No identity, no protection, no future. Yet this same abandoned child would one day stare down the greatest kings of Mesopotamia and say the words no one dared whisper. Move aside. This is the rise of Sargon. The river that morning moved like an animal, dragging reeds, broken pottery, forgotten tools, and a small wicker basket sealed with pitch. No one stepped forward to claim the child inside it. No mother. No father. Not even a whisper of a name. In ancient Mesopotamia, this wasn't shocking. Life left people behind every day. But fate loves contradictions, and sometimes it chooses the ones the world already threw away. The basket drifted into the hands of Akki, a royal gardener, a man who lived knee-deep in irrigation channels, feeding a kingdom that rarely remembered he existed. Akki had nothing grand to offer, but he had a heart that didn't look away. He opened the basket expecting tools. Instead, a baby stared back, not crying, not terrified, just awake, almost calm. Akki could have walked past. Many people would. But he didn't. He carried the child home, raised him, protected him, and unknowingly adopted the boy who would one day be called Sargon of Akkad. Back then, he was simply a child with no past. Growing up in Kish wasn't a story of comfort. Children of nobles walked with guards. Children of laborers walked with mud. But Sargon watched everyone. He listened. He memorized the way people moved, how they spoke, how power shifted in a room. He learned a lesson most adults never figure out. Power isn't inherited, it's noticed. And one day, someone noticed him. Sargon was working beside Akki when the king's steward walked by. Lower-class children usually looked down. Sargon didn't. He met the man's eyes, not in rebellion, but curiosity. A tiny moment, a broken rule, and everything changed. He was taken into palace service as a cupbearer, a position far more strategic than it sounded. He stood beside the king during ceremonies, councils, war meetings, private debates. He saw alliances break before anyone announced them. He watched generals argue over troop movements. He heard fear behind the king's voice. Sargon wasn't part of power. He was studying the architecture of it. Something the elites tried to hide. They were terrified. Droughts, rival city-states, weak leadership. Sumer was cracking and everyone felt it. Then the spark hit the powder. A rebellion erupted when the king of Uruk attacked Kish. The palace fell into panic, walls shaking with shouts, soldiers, fear. And in the chaos, a whisper poisoned the king's mind. Sargon was too observant, too confident, too unpredictable. And worst of all, not noble. That combination terrified the elite. The king quietly ordered Sargon killed. No trial. No explanation. Just a threat removed before it grew teeth. But Sargon heard the whispers. For the first time in his life, He refused to let fate decide anything. He ran. And the moment he escaped Kish, he became something new. A man with nothing to lose, and therefore a man capable of anything. He fled to Akkad, a barely recorded city filled with outsiders and survivors. People ignored by the southern kings. People exhausted from endless wars. People ready for a leader who wasn't trapped in old traditions. They saw something in Sargon no one in Kish had seen. Direction. A hunger bigger than his origins. And then history opened its door. Kish fell. The king who tried to kill Sargon lost everything. Sargon returned, not as a runaway, but a challenger. Some say he defeated the king in battle. Others say alliances. Others say strategy. But everyone agrees on one truth. Sargon did the impossible. He took the city that tried to erase him. And that was only the beginning. He looked at the map of Mesopotamia and didn't see borders. He saw opportunity. Where others saw sacred divisions between cities, gods, and rulers, Sargon saw a system designed to collapse. He trained soldiers differently. He used mobility instead of tradition. He rewarded loyalty instead of bloodline. He built an army that followed him because he offered something rare: a future. And when he marched south, the ancient cities fell one by one. Some resisted. Some surrendered. Some prayed to their gods instead of preparing their walls. But nothing stopped him. When Uruk collapsed, the region finally understood. A boy once left to die had defeated the oldest city in Sumer. He didn't just break the old world. He rewrote its rules. He invented the concept of empire. And here's what I think. People remember Sargon as a conqueror, or a tyrant, or a military genius. But he was something deeper. He was a human who refused to remain what the world told him he was. He ran toward collapse when everyone else ran from it. He built something bigger than himself because he believed he could. By the time he finished, he had created the first empire history ever recorded, a blueprint every future superpower would follow. But building an empire is one challenge. Keeping it alive is another. And tomorrow, in day 3, you will see what happens when the world's first emperor tries to control the storms he unleashed. If you haven't watched part 1 yet, check the description. It will make this chapter hit much harder. And get ready for what comes next. The story is only getting darker, only getting deeper, only getting more human.